it was always like the carrot on the stick.
Mm-hmm.
Not there yet, but I'm on my way. In terms of that, I think that is also something that a lot of high achievers really like paint this picture of the dream. And when I get there, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And this is the most toxic trait, I want to say, because as long as you have that, and I mean, this is the same for business owners as well, yeah? Because a lot of people are like, when I get there, I'll, do the thing. I'll, have time for the relationship, or I'll, expand my friend group, or I'll travel more. But I'm just going to hustle and I'm just going to stick it until I get there. And then there never happens because if you are placing your happiness and success at a point in the future, that point will just never happen because you're always going to be going somewhere and you're never arriving.
I want to welcome you to Identity Evolution, the podcast where we explore the moments that shape who we become. I'm your host, Lorena Schuth, somatic self-concept and identity coach, and I'm here to guide you through the raw and the real and the transformative stories of reinvention. I've got a really cool conversation for you today about leaving the traditional path and following one that doesn't make logical sense, but turns out to be the only right one. Today's interview is with Nina Oberoi, who left behind a successful and safe legal career, safe, to become a psychic. So if you feel currently stuck in a path that you think is too unsafe to let go of, maybe listen to this. Because her story, and mine too, because I'm sharing some of mine in this too, it turned out we have a lot of synchronicities. It will really show you why the safe path isn't always the safe path. Nina shares about the identity collapse that she experienced when she left her law career and how she built a life and business rooted in intuition and purpose instead of constant hustle. Hi, Nina. I'm happy to have you here. Welcome to Identity Evolution.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to speak to you too.
Yeah, I'm excited to interview you today about your story of how you left behind a safe career as a lawyer, and I would also assume quite lucrative career, in order to do the work that lights you up, to step into your purpose and to dive into energy work. I've seen that you do a lot of that, which, that decision is definitely one that I resonate with. I also decided to take the not safe path on the surface level, although I guess it kind of depends on how we define safe, because is it really safe to stay comfortable where you are when it limits you and contracts you? But, taking a step like this is always a risk, of course. So today I'm excited to just interview you about this journey, what led up to it, and of course how it impacted your self-concept, your identity, your sense of self. So yeah, what I would love to start with is just right at the beginning. What drew you to law in the first place? Like, what made you pursue a law degree and start a career in that area?
I've always felt that, like, when I was a kid, I just knew that I was here to make a difference in the world. Like, I knew that very, very early. And as a kid, I was like quite a little old lady. Like, I would watch like lawyer movies and lawyer series instead of cartoons. And I'm like, that's what I want to be when I grow up. So it had always been in the back of my mind. And also, like, a lot of people were telling me you have like the perfect personality to be a lawyer, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm going to be. So that was actually my highest goal. My highest aspiration was to study law, and I wanted to work with criminal law. That was the only thing I wanted to do.
Wow.
So
Ambitious.
yeah, and I mean, it takes a while. It's like a long 5 years to do that. And then after law school, like I, started my law career, and things were going really well. Like I was really happy where I was in life. I'm like, I've made it. I'm here. I'm set for life. And I really enjoyed it. And after a few years, I went through, like, it was just like from one day to the next, I went through a spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
And this really made my life turn upside down completely.
Okay, so you were actually really happy with that decision at first. And how long were you working in law before, you completely shifted paths?
About 6 years. So,
Right. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. It's actually really interesting for me to hear that like you were as a kid like looking watching all these lawyer series and that was your goal because I wanted to be a lawyer when I grew up. That was for the same reason. I was always like watching TV with my mom like
Yeah.
crime series and crime shows and I was like I want to be a lawyer and everybody would look at me weird. Like every kid wants to be like a singer or an astronaut and I'm like I
Something
want to be a
fun.
lawyer.
Exactly.
Yeah, so it's funny, it's a funny synchronicity, but cool. So this was your internal decision. It wasn't something that came from like external expectations or anything.
Not at all. I would say this is what I always wanted to do.
Hmm.
But in a way, there was also a part of me that, so I am born in Sweden, but I have an Indian background. Both of my parents are Indian. So there are these silent expectations of like, do something really big in your life, go to a prestigious university, do a job that pays well. Like it wasn't spoken, but it was there. So when I felt that, even though it was a decision that I wanted to make and something I really wanted to do, when I did take that step after like a couple of years of just faffing about and not really doing much with my life or like career wise, then I felt in a way, I'm like, this also gives me a sense of feeling accomplished. Like I felt that my parents were like, okay, she's finally doing something good. So there was a bit of that, even though it wasn't spoken. But yeah, I would say it was an internal decision first and foremost. But yeah, there was that.
Yeah, it's almost like a bit of a familial, not necessarily pressure, but like a subtle expectation or a hope. But then there's also like a cultural element here, right? Like
100%.
I lived in India for a bit and
Mm.
I'm familiar with, the pressure that's sometimes created from
Yeah,
families for no, not because it's anything negative, but because that's just the way the culture kind of is, right?
100%. And in a way, it's quite strange because it's like you feel seen when you're doing something quote unquote good.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was definitely an interesting dimension to it, which we'll probably speak about a little bit later
Yeah.
on with the shift and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so then you kind of touched on it and you said throughout your legal career, life was good and, you were actually successful and happy. But can you speak a little bit more to that? Like, how was your day to day, your internal world, and who was the version of you that existed there or at that time?
Oh my goodness, this is like such a long, like there's so many versions of me that have passed between that. But if I'm looking back to that version of me, super high achiever,
Mm-hmm.
who was well, at the time, I was very ambitious, very driven, but what I see now was that I was very driven by what's the word I want to use? Almost that ambition and drive came from a place of fear,
Right.
of
Yeah.
like being not seen as good enough, because if you have that to begin with which a lot of us have, like that is one of the main core wounds in this world, and
Yeah.
that got even re-triggered as I joined law school because in Sweden, like I had been studying at university before law school. I had studied criminology and a couple of different things. Very diverse. You see all different shades of colors, all types of people in different ages. But when I walk into law school day one, and there's this huge auditorium with 320 students, and it was an auditorium with like blonde ponytails and guys with back slicked hair. And here I walk in, I look very different from everyone else. And I was wearing like baggy jeans and like a sweatshirt because I mean it's uni, it's not like, first day at a law firm. And that really triggered like, whoa, I don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to prove myself.
Yeah.
So that triggered like a different layer of that wounding, that I need to prove myself that I deserve a space to be here. And that kind of followed me throughout my career as well. High achiever was just really driven to prove herself.
That makes a lot of sense. And Yeah, it's you said, it was driven by a fear, but you're right, like this wound of this not enoughness wound, right? That's the main wound that kind of everyone has. Like I feel like most of our wounds kind of come back to that at the root.
Yeah.
And what I'm also hearing here, which is very interesting, is that there's a lot that came up here about appearances, right? Like
Mhm.
people, like even in university, were already portraying themselves a certain way, and that can create a lot of pressure. Was there also a part of you, and you spoke a little bit about the silent family expectations, but was there also a part of you that was kind of going into this career for a certain image or a certain appearance, or would you say it was more driven by, no, this is what I want to do because I want to make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. Because I am not a person that can be driven by anything if it doesn't actually interest me. So
Hmm.
it was that drive because I've always loved working with people in any way, shape, or form. And I've always been doing that. And I really am a people person. So it just came very natural to me. And I actually found it interesting. And there was no like prestige or even an idea of like, ooh, I want to be one of those people that I see on like Suits. Like, no, it was none of
Yeah.
that at all. Because a lot of people choose that. Most people in law school are like, well, I had really good grades, so I needed to make use of them. Like they didn't
Mhm.
actually enjoy it. And it's honestly the most boring thing in the world if you don't enjoy it. So
Yeah.
it really is something that you need some sort of calling to. Otherwise, your life's going to be miserable.
And I think like the fact that you said you came into sort of the lecture and you felt like, oh my God, I don't fit in because you were just yourself, dressed as yourself, that kind of confirms that as well. Okay, like let's stay a little bit on this topic of fulfillment then, because you now use a lot of psychic and energy work in your business, which we're definitely gonna go into because that's such an interesting shift. But before your spiritual awakening, before energy work ever crossed your path, how did you think about purpose or fulfillment back then when you were still in your law career?
It was actually an interesting question that you bring up because I did mention that the only reason I got into this in the first place was that I wanted to work with criminal law.
Hmm.
And I did my first 2 years as a law clerk. So I was working in a courthouse, really in the middle of like all the courtroom drama and had all of that. But then afterwards, when I was searching for jobs, the one job that I actually wanted, the dream job, I had put all of my eggs in this one basket, is in this is the job that's going to give me fulfillment.
Hmm.
This is where my happiness lies, and this is the only path. And it was as a public prosecutor. That was what I wanted to do. And you only get to apply like once every 2 years. And I would apply, and there was always some really weird synchronicity that was like, I just didn't like, it just was almost there, but then it was like, no. And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on because there was no, I got every single job that I applied for, but this one was just a no. So I kept applying for jobs, which were okay. They were good. They paid well. I didn't love them, but I was happy because I knew I was going somewhere. So in terms of fulfillment, it was always like the carrot on the stick.
Hmm.
Not there yet, but I'm on my way.
Hmm.
So in terms of that, I think that is also something that a lot of high achievers really like paint this picture of the dream. And when I get there, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And this is the most toxic trait, I want to say, because as long as you have that, and I mean, this is the same for business owners as well, yeah? Because a lot of people are like, when I get there, I'll, do the thing, I'll, have time for the relationship, or I'll, expand my friend group, or I'll travel more. But I'm just going to hustle and I'm just going to stick it until I get there.
Yeah.
And then there never happens because if you are placing your happiness and success at a point in the future, that point will just never happen because you're always going to be going somewhere and you're never arriving.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the goalpost is always moving. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
totally.
Yep.
I relate a lot, like on a personal level, because I used to be that person, and that those patterns can still sometimes come through and be like, hi, like over there's the happiness, and then I'm like, no, 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 no. But I also see it a lot in my line of work, which is a lot about embodied manifestation, because you
Mm.
get a lot of people there that are are wanting to create something in their lives because they think it's going to make them happy, but it's the other way around. It starts here first, and then you're going to get the thing, but it's not about
Yeah.
the thing, you know? Yeah.
Exactly, because then it's always like success will always feel empty, or like whatever
Mhm.
you want will, whatever you're aspiring for is going to feel empty because that was always the feeling. It's like, oh, okay, I achieved something. And it was so short lived because that excitement was like, it lasted for 2 seconds. And it's like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is a very interesting pattern that I think a lot of people are still quite unconscious about, of not actually, being in the moment and
Yeah.
like celebrating where they are right now and loving it, even though they're desiring to experience something else. So that's the
Yeah, totally. It's definitely a balance. And I think a lot of this has just to do with, you get a dopamine hit when you achieve something and it gives you that little boost, but that, as you say, that excitement fades pretty quickly. And, yeah, like you say, you'll never feel fulfilled even when you get it. And I would also say sometimes, depending on what it is that people desire, whether that's wealth or whether that's a beautiful relationship, it also doesn't give them the safety. I feel like sometimes people desire something, like they want a lot of money or they want, this epic love story because they think it's going to make them feel safe and
yeah.
probably worthy. But you're gonna seek the same. You might get the money and then you're gonna be like, I might lose all of this, or what if I can't maintain this? Or you're gonna get the love and you constantly struggle to trust your partner. So it's never gonna end there. But let's talk a little bit about the shift, actually, or like the build up. Really, I know you kind of started saying you had a spiritual awakening, but when did the first cracks really appear? Like the sense that the legal path or the safe path wasn't aligned anymore. Did that only start with that spiritual awakening, or was there already like a slow unraveling or moments of that before?
That would sound like the most logical way, but for me, it was actually literally from one day to the next
Hmm.
because even though I wasn't where I wanted to be, I was like, I was still content because I knew I was going to get there eventually.
Yeah.
So I have always been a spiritual girly. Like, even though I've been a lawyer, I've been a spiritual, like, I was a very witchy kid, and I've always been into everything metaphysical and spiritual. And even though I just brought a little bit of that side of my personality to legal, they thought I was the weird one. Yeah. And this was just bringing, just, I'm like, if they just knew all the weird stuff that I actually am interested in. So there was that sense of like dialing down my personality,
Hmm.
which I wasn't actually conscious of back then, but I would say was literally from one day to the next because from going from I'm happy, I'm set up for life, you know, things are good, to even like having a really active social life and really getting along with my coworkers and everyone around me. So it was from one day to the next. So I went through this experience where I was having this like dark night of the soul moment and just questioning my very existence. Like, what am I doing with my life? I was, I know I'm here to make a difference in the world, and I'm working for a large corporation and making them a ton of money. And like, what's the point of all of this? And why am I actually here? And that thought kind of scared me a little bit because I'd worked so hard to get into law school to begin with. Like, it was a process because I didn't get accepted like the first time I applied. So that was a process to get admitted,
Hmm.
5 years, and then, getting top grades so that I could actually get a position as a law clerk, setting myself up. So that thought, I kind of like quickly ignored it. I'm like, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that because that was absolutely terrifying to realize that something that you think you've always wanted might not be the right path for you anymore. So I just thought, okay, put that one to the side, but everything else was very valid. It was like, okay, I'm not fulfilled where I am. And then I started to notice when I was coming to work that this is a really old movie, but like if anybody has seen it, it's called Groundhog Day. So it's literally
Oh
when
yeah.
we're waking up every day to the exact same thing. And then all of a sudden, I felt like I was trapped in the matrix. I'm like, I'm waking up at the same time every day. I'm taking the same route to work. I come in, I open this door, and I feel a part of my soul dying inside. Every day, it was the same thing. And And then it was just that I felt like I had woken up from deep slumber. And then, like, I would go to the coffee machine, and then someone would ask me a lame question and tell me about their ski trip during the weekend. And I was like, I am exploding because this is mind numbingly boring. All of these conversations are pointless. I'm not resonating with anyone. So that was actually a really uncomfortable shift because people that I got along with, suddenly I didn't have anything in common with them anymore. And I just couldn't stand these surface level conversations. And I tried to explain to people, I'm like, I'm feeling really unhappy when I go to work every day. And they're just like, the interesting thing that I didn't actually expect, because people are like, oh, it's important to be happy. And people are like, well, it's a job. Suck it up and just, you know, get on with it. And that was kind of what I was met with around me. There was no one that was encouraging me, like, what would actually make you happy, or why are you not happy, or like actually asking anything about that. Because I also figured out that everybody around me was kind of not really loving what they were doing either, but they're just like, it's a job. You got to do it.
In our society, it's just, that's no one is really encouraged to pursue their dreams and do what fulfills them, because then our society, our systems wouldn't really work anymore, the
Yeah.
way they're working now, if that was how things happen. But I think it's so interesting as well how you're saying, um, you know, this made you happy, like you thought it made you happy, right? You thought it made you happy, and then from one day to the next, like you saw all these cracks, you saw all these things that you didn't see before. Pretty much it sounds almost like the moment you got present and you weren't just working towards a goal anymore, but you were in the here and now, and you were actually thinking about your day to day. So you said that this was kind of like a dark night of the soul spiritual awakening. So can you speak a little bit more about that? Like what actually happened that woke you up to this extent?
Well, it's actually quite interesting because I met someone at the time, a person that I was dating, and
Mhm.
it was a very synchronistic kind of meeting. I don't know if you've experienced this before, but that moment when you see someone for the first time and it's like a deja vu.
Mhm.
We've done this before. Instant soul recognition. And long story short, because he was essentially just an activator.
Mhm.
So that kind of mirrored back to me kind of like my own wounds that I was not even aware of. And then when that happened, that just triggered this whole level of awakening and elevation in consciousness. So it was not really about him, but what he activated within me.
Mhm.
So that's kind of the best way I would describe it. Kind of, let's just say, a spiritual connection, which had a very specific purpose, and it was to wake me up.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it wasn't him actually doing anything. It was just the energy and the intensity of that meeting that allowed this to happen. And what really happened then was that since that thought of like, this might not be what I'm meant to do was so scary, I just convinced myself that I was at the wrong place. I'm like, I'm just in the wrong job. So let's just change our circumstances and this will all go away. And that's what I did many times. So I was like manifesting back then. And I'm like, I want to manifest a new job where I'm blah, 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 blah. And I would always so I was job hopping for a couple of years,
Mhm.
like crazy. I was just hopping here and there and thinking that changing my outer circumstances was going to solve everything.
Mhm.
Um, and I kept getting the jobs, but what I was kept recreating was the same horrible work environment. And what I started noticing was it was just getting worse and worse and worse. So I was
Mhm.
getting better paid each time, but like the people around me, the bosses were horrible. Like it was bad. And during this time, all I could do and think about was like I was just deep diving into everything spiritual, everything metaphysical, signing up for like 100 courses on Udemy. Like I was just everywhere and really confused and desperately searching because I was
Right.
feeling like, what is my thing?
Mhm.
And the only thing that I was looking forward to, I became such a hermit because before it was just work hard, party on the weekend, rinse, repeat. And now it was like, I can't wait to get home after work so I can dive into my new spiritual course and learn something. It was like, there was really no, I was just searching, 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 searching. And I actually felt quite lost because I kept searching, and then I would like do a course or like learn something, and I'm like, well, okay, this was nice, but it wasn't my thing. So
Yeah.
where is my thing? So that was basically the desperate search of
Yeah.
purpose.
It's disorienting, especially when you've spent so much time pursuing this one career. Like, I'm not surprised that you were job hopping for a while because it's, as you say, it's really scary because it's not just what do I do next? It's also I've put so much into this. Like, I've literally spent the last years of my life to build this career, and now I'm just going to give it all up and I don't even know what's next. Like, that's of course terrifying. And I think like when we go through a spiritual journey, there's always a bit of an ego death at some point that needs to happen where you need to let go before you can actually step into something new. But that's really, really scary. So can you take us into the moment you actually made the decision? Like the moment you were like, I cannot do this one more fucking day, like I need to actually leave my old life behind.
Yeah. And that's interesting because that decision was made for me. Divine intervention by the universe. But
That happened to me too. Interesting.
beautiful, because honestly, I don't know if I would have had the courage otherwise.
Hmm.
I don't actually know, because even though I was feeling this so strongly, like everyone's like, "Are you insane? Like you do not leave a well-paid job to be what? Like a hippie, like earning very little money." And then I was actually even getting familiar with the thought like, I can be like, a struggling, what's the word I'm looking for? Like someone that was working with, like, had her own business but was working hard and struggling. That's what I thought that the other choice was, because
Yeah.
in my mind it didn't exist that you could be very successful, even making more money than you make as a lawyer. So yeah, this endless searching brought me to a plant medicine retreat. And
Ah,
my intention for that retreat was like, just show me who I am and why I'm here. Please.
right.
That's all I want to know. And I was shown. And it wasn't vague, I would say. It was like a deep remembrance. So I was basically shown all of these past lives of me as a channeler, as a healer, as a spiritual leader. And I was connected to the source of all that is,
Mm.
which was very interesting because it was something I really wanted to connect to. And I was really trying on my own before, and nothing was happening. And then it was just all there. And I'm like, wow, it's just all here. And then they were showing me what my purpose was. And it was all very, very beautiful. And it was almost like I was afraid for that ceremony to end, because it's like, when you have someone on the phone and you just don't want to put the phone down because you don't know if you're going to talk to them again. And I'm like, are
Mm.
you sure I'm going to be able to do this? I asked like 20 times because I'm like, is this just a trippy experience or is this actually real? They're like, yes, you can do this. So ceremony ends, come home the next day, and I think I'm psychic. So I'm like, hello, is anyone there? No one was there. And then I felt like an idiot. And I thought, okay, maybe this is just all in my head. Fast forward to 2 months later. I'm at a new job, which I hate. It's the worst one out of the bunch. Awful. And I had actually booked a trip to Colombia to go to another medicine retreat.
Right.
And before the trip, I just said out loud, I said, wouldn't it be nice if I lost my job?
You manifested it.
I manifested it because I wouldn't have had the courage. I mean, it's irresponsible to quit if you don't have something lined up. But I was just seeing how illogical it would be to go on this deep inner journey for 2 weeks and then come back to that. And then, divine intervention, the pandemic hits.
Oh my God, the synchronicities in our story. I'll add some things later because it's actually insane.
2020 was a happening year for a lot of people, I must say. But yeah, the pandemic hit, so trip didn't happen, which was okay. But yeah, then they had to let me go because I was quite new and all the courtrooms were closed, and they're like, "We're really sorry, we need to let you go." And I was just so happy. I'm like, "Thank you."
Yeah, relief because you
And they
wanted this. You manifested
yeah,
this.
and they were really confused, and I'm like, "No, I'm happy. Thank you."
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue in the world of what I would be doing, but I was just happy. And I
Yeah.
was just taking long walks in the forest, and I'm like, I just feel good. And 1 week later, I'm sitting and meditating, and I feel this sudden like pressure, this energy at the crown of my head, and it just blasted wide open. And all of a sudden, I'm hearing this really loud voice, like unmistakably, it's not me. Very,
Mhm.
very loud masculine voice. Hello. And I'm like, I knew, I understood. I'm like, okay, this is the thing. And I'm like, hello. And we had a 10-hour conversation that day with my spirit guide then. And I had so many questions.
Mhm.
So it was basically telling me who I was, why I was here, why everything in my life had panned out the way it had, and up until that point. And I even asked the question. I'm like, but was I never meant to be a lawyer? Like, I wanted to work with crit. Like, what was that all about? He's like, didn't you see the divine intervention? Didn't you see why it made no sense that that door was just kept being closed to you?
Mhm.
Because if you would have opened that door, you would have become comfortable. You would
Mhm.
have worked there. That's the kind of job that you're at, that a job like that for life. You
Yeah.
don't leave, or people rarely leave. So he's like, you would have been comfortable. You would have stayed there for life, and this would have never happened. And
Yeah.
God had other plans for you, and so did your soul. So I was
Wow.
like, okay, I'm listening. I'm
Mhm.
listening. And so we kept having these conversations every day. And he basically revealed to me, he's like, you are here to help leaders rise. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I've been psychic for 5 minutes, and I get this really big, like, purpose and mission. And it kind of freaked me out a bit. So
It's a big purpose, to be honest.
yeah, and very specific. It's not like you're here to help people make them feel better, but it was like, no, you're here to help leaders like rise. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't make sense to me. So, yeah, to answer your question, it wasn't actually, it was that decision was kind of made for me. And then when I was in that space, I'm like, well, I'm not in a rush, I can experiment, I can try this out. I was not 2 feet in. It took quite a while, so I'll
Yeah.
let you know about how that unfolded. But at this time, it was more exploration and experimentation, and really just like looking at what is it that I'm actually doing. And I started doing this for fun,
Yeah.
and then it was quite interesting because then all of a sudden these people started reaching out to me from all corners of the world and were like, how much is a reading with you? And I'm like, people want to pay me for this? It was wild. um
It's really cool for me to actually listen to this. Like, just to add to this, there are, and I didn't know this, like, just for anyone listening, this is actually the first time you and I are properly speaking face to face. So, like, it's not like we know each other really well or anything, but I didn't know that we had so many synchronicities in our story. It's actually insane. Like, for me, it was also a plant medicine retreat where I asked the question, what's my purpose? And I didn't get an answer, but like, because I just fell asleep. Weird. But I just came back and I was like, I should apply for a counseling course. Like, I felt like the cracks started forming for me where I knew I was working in the travel and tech industry. And I knew I didn't want that, but I also didn't know what else to do. And it was just these little things kept appearing, and then people asked me for coaching. So very similar to what you're describing. And then
Ooh.
COVID hit and I lost my job and I had the opportunity to go all in. So it's cool to see, first of all, funny synchronicities, but also I think it proves that when you're not on a path, like when you're on a path that you're not meant to be on, like shit's gonna happen. That's gonna
Yeah.
just, you know, pull you away from it. And I'm curious about this in your case as well, because in my case, yes, I was not on the path that ultimately, I was supposed to end up at. And who knows if the path I'm on right now is where I'm going to end. I don't know that yet, but um, I can see how everything up until this point also was required for me to walk the path I'm walking now. So do you feel like the things that you learned before or who you were before or things from your law career are actually now benefiting you, or that, you feel like, yes, that wasn't the right path and that's why I had these divine interventions and I was blocked in certain areas, but I can also see how this actually, brought me exactly to where I needed to be?
100%. And loving the synchronicities, by the way. That's wild. Absolutely. I didn't see the connection in the beginning, but It is very much partly of how my personality is and like how my brain is wired, because what I do today is that I am here to help leaders rise. And these are the women that I'm working with. I am working with the entrepreneurs who are here to make an impact, who are here to step into the fullness of their mission and earn abundantly for it and activate the fullness of their gifts. And what usually is mirrored is that the type of clients that I attract, they are the women who are the high achievers. They are the women who have the same
Mm.
type of wounding, of that not enoughness, of that perfectionist, of being a lot in their masculine energy. And what I actually hear a lot from people, like, it's actually quite interesting because I have a podcast myself, and my first episode, where I'm simply just sharing my story, is the most downloaded one. And when people reach out to me, I'm like, oh, so what was it that made you reach out? And they're like, your story, because you're very spiritual, but it's so grounded, it's so practical, and it's actionable, and it's just those two worlds merging together. Because I mean, there are different types of psychics and channelers, and the ones with long flowy dresses, and like, I'm very down to earth, I'm very practical. And if someone is coming to me, it's lawyer brain. It's like, okay, let's be very efficient, let's be very fast because I'm not wasting any time. Let's go to what matters, what creates results. Let's give you something that's actionable. And then people are like, whoa, you channel, but it's very like methodical and very lawyer like, or like they can tell that I've been a lawyer in the past. So it's actually something that is interesting to me because I understand these women so well, and I can understand the patterns, and I can see how everything that has made them so successful is actually their upper limit. It is the upper ceiling. It is everything they need to unlearn. And that is incredibly powerful, because if you're working with someone that actually sees you in that, that's really where the work, the transformational work, is the most impactful, I believe. So yeah, I truly do think that there is a reason for everything, and that everything has panned out the way that it has. Absolutely.
I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I promise the second half will be even better. If you have been enjoying this conversation and you want to embark on your own self concept transformation, then download my free self concept mastery blueprint to get started with your own identity evolution. The link is in the show notes. Now let's get back to the interview. Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's yeah, you've kind of walked the path that you can now kind of show, like, guide others through, right? And yeah.
Yeah, and it's even another interesting thing, like the lawyer brain part of me who's always looking for, I don't know how much you into like human design you are, but I'm a 3/5. So I'm, you too?
Yes. Okay, that's
That-
crazy.
Okay.
But what are you? We're probably not the same. I feel like we're
A
not.
generator.
Okay, I'm a projector. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
But
for once,
yeah.
not a synchronicity. Wow, that's mental. Okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm always looking for, how can I make this better? How can we be more efficient? How can we be more, it's always looking for mastery and
Mm.
perfection. And not perfection in a I need to be perfect way, but like, how can I master something? How can I deconstruct it? And how can I make it even better? So I think that that's definitely a part of like the way my brain is wired as well to work. So yeah, I'm happy that I'm like, there are no regrets at all about the path that I chose before. There's no like, oh, I wasted so many years doing that, because I needed that experience.
Yeah.
Because looking back, it's like, whoa, who is that girl? Like, I even was looking at a picture the other day, and I'm like, oh my goodness, just like reading the energy of old me. I'm like, all the things she did not know that were in store for her. It's wild.
That three line is also a lot about trying different things, right? It's
Yeah.
like trial and error. So it makes sense that you would, you know, take a path at first that is not actually where you're ending up. Like that's part of your gift as
Oh,
well.
yeah. And it's the same thing for the soul aligned path, if you would
Mhm.
say that, because it started with opening up to psychic abilities. And it started with me being able to tell people like their entire story as like a book, because I could read it so clearly, and telling them what was meant for them in their life, what their purpose was, and what's holding them back. So literally giving them the answers to everything. But then I felt, okay, I'm just sending them off now with all of the answers to I want to be able to help them. And I didn't know how. Um, and this is actually really interesting because when I first opened up, they said, you're a channeler, you're a healer, a teacher, and a guide. And my mind somehow figured out that coaching would be a really good path for me because
Mm-hmm.
it was, 2020, it was the boom of the coaching industry. Everybody was a coach. Coaching was a hot thing. So that's what I thought made sense because I was choosing from my mind again. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the psychic stuff, it's what I love, but what's something that's a little bit more digestible? I mean, it's easier to tell people I'm a coach than like I'm a psychic. That was an edge. Very much in the closet still at this point in time. So I took a coaching certification, spent a lot of time, a lot of money, loved the course, started a business, and I'm like, I'm all set for life now. Now everything's gonna flow. Nothing flowed. Nothing was happening. I had clients all the time for the psychic work. I had zero coaching clients. And I'm like, what gives? If this is my purpose, why is it so damn hard?
Yeah.
And it's actually really funny when you were talking about the synchronicities and the divine interventions and the path, because I was just like, you know, totally confused. I had no idea what I was doing. But when I opened up in the beginning, my guide said, don't worry. When you are doing the work of God, when you are following your soul, you are going to be taken care of. And I never believed in like manifesting money out of thin air. Like I'd heard about it and I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. But then all of a sudden, I just said, okay, I'll play with that. I'm not going to believe it, but I'm going to play with it. And I started receiving all sorts of money all over the place. So I was taken care of during my phase of trial and error and confusion. So yeah, I received like quite quite a lot that really like set me up for being in this trial and error phase. And so I was taken care of. It wasn't a struggle in that sense. The struggle was to actually get things off the ground and starting to question, am I just, is this all in my head? Is this just a little experiment I needed to have to actually go back to the real life? Because I was still 1 foot in lawyer land because I was afraid of actually releasing that completely. So it wasn't like an instant shift where I'm like, never again, I'm going to close that door. The door was open for 2 years.
Yeah.
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 And the identity struggle was a little bit, it was a little bit tricky because I would hate the question when I was out, like, so what do you do?
Mm.
Because I started to say, I'm a lawyer, but like that's how I would start introducing myself. And then I said, and now I've transitioned into coaching because I wanted people to take me seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just noticed that after 2 years, I'm like, huh, that's interesting.
I
I'm
had that
sure.
too in the beginning where I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to say I'm a coach because then people are gonna ask more, and either I have to tell them some woo woo bullshit and they're gonna think I'm insane, or
Yeah.
they're gonna think I'm some random like life career coach. Like nothing against that,
Yeah.
obviously, but like that's not
Yeah.
what I do, and I felt like it was keeping me so small and like putting me into this box, especially as the coaching industry was booming and there were so many, I'm always a bit annoyed at this. There are so many coaches with like zero integrity and who aren't actually skilled and are just in it for the money. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Like we can create such an abundant, beautiful life, and I think we're supposed to. But if that's our only reason for going into a line of work, there's really, really something off. And especially when you're helping people, that just creates tension in my body because it's just so wrong, and I didn't want to be boxed in with that. So
Yeah.
like I resonate with that identity piece. So how long did it take for you to actually fully claim that line of
Yeah.
work as your path and purpose and identity?
It took quite a while because I think I was also waiting for the outer proof that,
Mm.
okay, is this just a side hobby or is this something I like? And I didn't even have big goals because I was like settling. I'm like, I could be happy with like a very, like if I would get by, like it would be okay because I would be happy. So I didn't see what was actually possible or like even see other people that were doing the type of work that I was doing that were successful. So I didn't have a lot of high standards. It was basically that I was just afraid to close the door completely and like go on this path and then regret it after 5 years apply for a job and they're going to be like, so what have you been doing the past 5 years? Oh, I'm doing psychic work. It's weird. And this was keeping me in the closet because I had these powerful gifts, but I was terrified of showing up online. Absolutely terrified. And I'm not a shy person. It's not like I'm a, wallflower or anything. Like I'm quite open and very social, but the thought of even talking about what I did or let alone posting on Instagram, like it was awful. Like it was actual terror in my body and I just couldn't understand why it was so intense. So there was a fear of coming out of the spiritual closet, fear about people who I went to law school who I don't even care about. What are they going to think? And what are friends and family going to think I've lost my mind and that I'm on this stupid little adventure? Like all of these ideas. And that was really keeping me small and it was really holding me back because maybe somehow I was preparing for failure by keeping one foot in both worlds. And what actually happened was a year into this failed coaching, it's not failed, it was actually a part of my 3-5. I needed to learn all about the subconscious mind and those tools to understand what's not working and how I can do that differently. So I started a business course with a woman who's also a psychic. So she actually said, sit with your guides, ask the question, who am I? Why am I here? I'm like, I know that already, but I'll ask. So I sit, I ask, and they're like, yep, you're here to help leaders rise. You're a coach, you're a healer, you're a channel. I'm like, yeah, so coaching. Nope, we never said that. That was all you.
Mm.
And I was so triggered because I'm like, have I been doing this for a year and it's not been the right path? Because that's actually quite interesting with purpose because obviously, like all the people that I meet that I work with, they're like, I know I'm here to help human. Like it's very vague, but
Yeah.
it's actually showing like sometimes when you're on your path of purpose, if the doors aren't opening, if it's not aligning, if it's not working, it doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It could be the tiniest tweaks. Because at this point, I was like, okay, so whatever I've been doing from my mind has obviously not been working. Talk to me. What am I supposed to do? So they're like, you're a healer. And I'm like, ew, I don't resonate with that at all. And then they just instructed me, Nina, you're going to remember. You don't need to learn anything because your soul has done this for lifetimes. Offer healing sessions and psychic business readings to business owners. And this freaked me out because it was still not business owners I was working with. And I'm like, I'm not doing well in business. Well, what the hell do I know about business?
Okay.
I don't know anything about healing because my,
Bit of imposter syndrome sounds like a bit
oh,
of like, oh, do I fit in here? Like this is what like I feel like this is what I'm meant to do, but how the hell do I do it?
yeah, because in my mind, I'm like, I just want to help people find their purpose. Like that's the thing. But then it was like, no, it's the business owners. I was like, okay. But I'm like, my mind hasn't gotten me anywhere, so let's just go with it. So it was terrifying, and especially terrifying to show up for a session, which I had no manual. I did not know how this was going to go down,
Right.
and so I started like channeling for people's businesses, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know that was possible. I thought
Mm.
you could ask guides like for basic guidance. I didn't know that you could have business guides that could give you clear, direct um, guidance in terms of like your marketing, your messaging, your offers, yeah, all the things. So I'm like, I'm pretty good at this. And
Mm.
then these people that I had the readings with, we had healing sessions and it was just as natural as breathing. I knew exactly what to do. I knew exactly where to go. I knew exactly what to shift. And the 3-5 in me was just like, wow, we're collapsing like 100 things in a session, whilst in a coaching session, we would work on like one thing.
Yeah.
It's fast, this is efficient, it's playful. And I also noticed that with coaching, I liked it, but it wasn't that 100% flow, if I put it that
Yeah.
way. I still had to prepare and I wasn't always like in the moment, like in flow. And compared to the work that I'm doing now, it's literally like playing. Like I get paid to be me and it's like breathing.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to talk a little bit more about like how this shaped you, and like how
Mm.
it shaped your identity and what changes you experienced on a personal level. It sounds like your wealth consciousness really expanded, for example, and obviously you stepped into your gifts, but what changed in like the rest of your life and your identity? Like what changed maybe in your personal relationships? Is there anything else that you noticed that reshaped your life or the way you saw yourself based on this outside of
Oh,
your
wow.
work with clients?
Oh, this is such a great question because starting your own business and like really following your soul path, it is a spiritual awakening on steroids. Like there is no other path that I believe that brings you on the path of spiritual ascension. It is really like people are like, I want to ascend in consciousness. Follow your purpose, build a business. That's your path to ascension because it will bring up. Because I thought when I started this, I'm like, I'm so self aware. And like, I have
Mm,
all of my stuff figured out. And everything came like all of your stuff is going to come up and stare at you in the face. And you are going to be faced with every single fear, every single limiting belief, every single core wound that will just be exposed to you. And that was really, it was really hard because it's a lot to handle, you know?
mhm,
And it also makes you question sometimes like, is this really worth it because of all the stuff that comes up? But what I would say is that like the level of transformation that you experience yourself on an identity level, because there's so many layers to this, that there is the um it's so different from being in employee land where you're just going to a 9 to 5 and you're getting paid and like whatever. But like here it's me showing up as me, asking for exchange, receiving that, um, taking everything personally, like making it mean something about yourself. So that core wound of self-worth was really exposed.
yeah.
The core wound of that and like the then I could see when I looking back at Lawyer Girl, I was like, whoa, all of those patterns that I had, that was wounding. That wasn't ambition. That was
Mm,
fear, you know, masked as perfectionism. So it really took a lot of unlearning. And what I would say is that the way that coming back to your most authentic self is the biggest identity transformation there is because it's all of the unlearning of who you're not.
yeah.
And being able to show up in a way where it's like, I'm just being me right now and it's okay. And this is the frequency that I know that attracts people to me. It's
Mm,
not if I'm outlining something and trying to sound a certain way, because everything is vibration and frequency. And the more that you are aligned with your soul, with your true soul frequency, that's when everything shifts for you. So the worst thing you can do is try to pretend be somebody you're not, or like try to sound a certain way if you really speak a different way, you know, because that is the most magnetic thing for anybody to be in their true essence. And I know that authenticity is such a buzzword, but it really is the key to everything. So I would say to be feeling safe to be all of you,
mhm,
all that you are, sharing vulnerably, and allowing yourself to really look at these patterns. And the other thing that came, the wealth consciousness, absolutely, because as I mentioned, I was kind of okay with, I'm going to have to work really hard and earn very little money and be all right. And I couldn't have imagined a reality where I would be able to earn more than I was earning in my job in legal, where it felt that this is just a like this is a video game. This is a game of fun and play. It's a video game with energy, frequency, and vibration because that's how I've built my business. So this is really what I love supporting other people to do as well, because it really is, it gets to be exactly how you design it to be. It's also a super common thing that I see with people sometimes, that when they pursue their path of purpose, like for example, if you're an artist or very
mhm,
creative, I can see like imprints around past lifetimes as a struggling artist.
mhm,
And I'm like, okay, and that's the connection, because so many of us are conditioned either previous lifetimes or ancestrally. It's a very strong pattern that you need to follow the path that's that makes sense, because
mhm,
following your dreams, following your purpose is absolute foolishness and you cannot make money doing that. And it's just incredible because you can literally like you can make money doing absolutely anything. And
yeah.
if it's the thing that you truly love and that you're so gifted at, because nobody can do what you do in the way that you do it.
Mm,
And when you do that, that is literally the highest path of abundance that's available to you.
mm.
So, yeah, I find that absolutely incredible because that also just broke my mind of like the struggling light worker.
Yeah. So that's like the big identity shift that you had yourself. And I love what you said. I totally agree with like the authenticity piece. Like I always, because the work I do is self-concept work, right? Like it is identity work. And often people come and like try to be somebody else. And I'm like, no, no, no. It's about like removing everything that you're not and, you know, actually letting the truth of who you are come to the surface. So definitely resonate with you there. And I also really love what you said about, you know, business as a spiritual awakening. What came up for me there was I always like, because a lot of the people I work with are, you know, they can struggle in different areas of their life, but often it's relationships. And I always like to
Mm.
say relationships are your biggest mirror. But what you're pointing out, and you know, you have a relationship with your business and you have an identity connected to your business. And that's a freaking fucking big mirror too. So yeah, that's a really good thing to point out as well. Okay, so for the sake of time, I want to bring it to a close. And what I like to do at the end is I have a little closing ritual. So that's 3 questions, kind of like quick fire, but you know, you're not tight on time with this one. And one question is about the past, one is about the present, and one is about what's just beyond the horizon. So it's kind of about different versions of yourself, right? Like who the lawyer girl, which I love when you say that, lawyer girl, of who you are now, and you know who you might turn into, or
Mm.
who you're currently turning into. Um, Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay, let's start with the past. So, if the lawyer version of you, the lawyer girl, watched your life today, as it is today, for one day, what would surprise her the most?
I think it would break her mind to like what's actually possible because she had tunnel vision. Like she was like, it's this or that and like nothing else. Like she did not know how much possibility there actually is and how much your soul gets to play and gets to create because that is the magic that's actually being experienced now, which
Mhm,
has nothing to do with logic,
mhm,
which is actually very interesting because she was a very logical girly. Everything had to make sense. And now nothing makes no sense at all. And I think that she would just be, yeah, I'm just tuning into her now. Her jaw's dropped and she's just like, what?
it's like from like up here to your intuition.
100%. And I think that if she, the good thing was her, ignorance is bliss because if she would have known the, I don't want to call them challenges because everything that we experience as a challenge is literally the key to your greatness. So when there's like something that is challenging or coming up, you know that the key to your greatness is on the other side of that. So it's really like love your wounds, love your triggers. But if she would have known that like massive death portal and all the versions of herself that had to die, I don't think she would have done it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that she was, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she would have been too scared. Yeah, that makes
Yes.
sense. Okay, well, for the present version of you, if you were cast in a film as your current self, what would the genre be?
If I were cast in a movie as myself, um, I think it would be, I would say it would be a comedy, but not the whole way.
Uh-huh.
A comedy, but also a bit of drama. So
Yeah,
that would be me in a nutshell. Yeah.
I love that. Like very a lot of polarity. Love it. A
Yeah.
lot of duality. And finally, if the next version of you was a landscape, what scenery would you now be walking into?
So that's an interesting question because where I am right now is that I'm also in a phase of an identity shift, I believe, because it is also not that it's only my identity that's been shifting. It's like my soul has outgrown my current space where I'm
Mm-hmm.
actually living right now because Sweden is just not it. And it's interesting because of all of the personal stuff that's been going on inside. The environment you're in needs to kind of mirror that. And if it feels like it's almost that you're done. So at this point in time, I am on my mission to find my happy place. And my happy place is somewhere very, very warm, near the ocean, where I get to be near the water and, yeah, just have a life where I am feeling that it is a reflection of my inner world as well.
Beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah, we were just talking before we started recording because for those for everyone watching or listening, I always record these ahead of time. So I don't know when it's going to go live, but we're recording this in December. You're in Sweden. I'm in Scotland. It's fucking cold. It's miserable. It's dark all the time. So I definitely understand that pull to be somewhere warm.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. This was a lot of fun. And yeah, I will post all of your details, links, podcast, how people can connect with you and work with you, all of the things in the show notes, of course. But yeah, I just want to give you a moment to let everyone know where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and how they can find out more about what you do.
I am channeled by Nina on Instagram, and over there you can find all of my links and different ways of working with me. And I also have a podcast with the same name, the Channeled by Nina podcast, available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And the rest of the information will be in the show notes. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me on. This was just a delight to chat with you and yeah, see so many synchronicities on our path.
Yeah, it's fun because often when I have people on, I know a bit more about their personal journey and story just because, you might have a different relationship. So it was cool to kind of get to know you in real time, really. Thank you so much. And yeah.
Too. Thank you.
I absolutely love having these conversations because every story really reminds us that you can use any experience for your evolution, not just your breakdown. It also shows us that transformation is never linear. It's personal, it's messy, and it's what makes us human. I'm Lorena Schuth, and this was Identity Evolution. Come and find me on Instagram at Lorena Schuth, linked in the show notes, and DM me and share your key takeaway from this episode with me. I would love to know. You'll also find guest links and details in the show notes if you want to connect more deeply with them. And you'll also find my self-concept coaching program, Recreate Yourself, if you are feeling ready for your identity shift. If this episode stirred something in you, make sure you subscribe and ideally leave a quick review and rating wherever you are listening or watching. This really, really helps more people find these stories of self-reinvention. See you next time.